going to be, it's a bit of an odd place, really, to talk about peace in the book of Judges. So we're going to be in Judges chapter 6 this morning, specifically verses 11 to 24. So if you want to read along, it'll be on the screen behind, or feel free to grab your phones or your Bibles and read along. But we're in Judges chapter 6, verses 11 to 24. And there's a word in there that, despite me practicing, I'm still struggling to say. So please bear with me as I say that. So it says this: the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite. Come at me if I've said that wrong, but let's go with that this morning. Where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." "Pardon me, my lord," Gideon replied. "But if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hands of Midian." The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hands. Am I not sending you?" The Lord turned to him and said, "Pardon me, my lord," Gideon replied, "but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." The Lord answered, "I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive." Gideon replied, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me. Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offering and set it before you." And the Lord said, "I will wait until you return." So Gideon went inside, prepared a young goat, and from an ephah of flour he'd made bread without yeast. Putting the meat in a basket and broth in a pot, he brought them out and offered them to him under the oak. And the angel of the Lord said to him, "Take the meat and the unleavened bread, place them on this rock, and pour out the broth." And Gideon did so. Then the angel of the Lord touched the meat and the unleavened bread with the tip of the staff that was in his hand. Fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, "Alas, sovereign Lord, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." But the Lord said to him, "Peace, do not be afraid. You are not going to die." So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it, "The Lord is Peace." And to this day it stands in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. Amen. You know, we've done this the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to ask a rhetorical question again as we start. So if I asked you now to describe peace or to think of a situation that you find peaceful, what would that be? How would you describe it, or what do you think of a peaceful situation? And I would guess, I read Ruth's lips then, and I'm with it. She went, "No kids." Because I think most of us would probably describe peace as the absence of something. No kids. You take kids out of the equation, therefore you get peace. The absence of conflict, or the absence of bad news, or the absence of noise, like a nice quiet house. I mean, we went away the other day, and the best way I can describe it is as it was peaceful, because we sat on this little hut on some small holding, looking over the beach and the sea, and we couldn't hear anything other than the birds. Like, that was peace. It was full of peace to us because there was an absence of noise, there was an absence of distraction, there was an absence of stuff to do, and that's what peace feels like to us, doesn't it? Like a temporary ceasefire from the relentless nature of life. But the Bible has a completely different word for peace, which, as we've heard already, is shalom. And the different word brings with it a different meaning. And this word shalom isn't about the absence of anything at all, but rather it's about the presence of everything. Like, the word means wholeness, completeness, fullness, that there's nothing missing, there's nothing broken, there's nothing taken away, that every relationship is right, and every part of life is functioning as God intended. That's what this word shalom means. So shalom isn't a ceasefire from the relentlessness of life, but rather shalom is the restoration of life as God intended. And that matters because so much of what we're looking for, we end up looking in the wrong place because our starting place is wrong. We're looking to create peace by taking things away from our lives. Remove the worry, remove the tension, remove the bad news, remove the kids if you want. When God is offering something to be added to our lives, not less of something, but rather more of someone. So today we're gonna meet Jehovah Shalom, the Lord our peace, and we meet him in a wine press, with a frightened man running and hiding from his enemies. You know, this name isn't born in a place of peace, but rather it's born in a place of fear. It's born in a place of absolute, like, hiding and fear of what's going on, which tells us that the Lord can meet us anywhere. The Lord met Gideon in that winepress, in that concrete, in that pit, hiding from his enemies. And sometimes that's exactly where he meets us. You know, Gideon 6, it opens with one of the most, like, a really sad verse, one of the saddest verses in the Bible. It says, "The Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord gave them into the hands of the Midianites for 7 years." Israel is in a mess because of what they have done. They're in a mess because they have wandered. They're in a mess because they were doing evil things. They were chasing after other gods. And the 7-year, like, nightmare of the Midians ruling over them, really, is the language of Judges. You know, that's where we are. That's where this book is. It's a book really about discipline. It's a book of consequences. If you do this, then there will be a consequence. You will be judged according to your actions. They did evil, and therefore the Lord handed them over to the Midianites for 7 years. But it's here, it's in this environment, it's in this life where it's in the hands of the evil Midianites, really, where God shows up and reveals himself as their peace. And that means that God, Jehovah Shalom, doesn't show up to people who have earned his peace, but rather he shows up to people whose own choices have led them to a place of discomfort and of fear and of hurting and in a winepress, in an absolute mess. That's the grace of the Lord. That's grace coming to us when we have messed up ourselves. This is the kind of God that we are dealing with, a kind God who meets us in the mess. And so the scene is this: the Midianites are camped in the valley, and every harvest, the moment that the grain comes, you know, has anyone seen A Bug's Life? It reminds me of A Bug's Life, you know, when the little ants are trying to, like, get the grain, and then the evil locusts come in and basically take it all. I reckon, like, that story is lifted from this chapter. It says every harvest, the moment the grain comes up, it says the Midianites descend like locusts and strip the land. So Israel basically has no food. Israel has no money, so their economy is shot. Their lives are shot. Like, their families are broken. They are hiding. They're trying to, like, survive knowing that they're under the rain and under the hand of these Midianites. Hope is gone. And it's in this context that we meet Gideon. And he's not, like, standing in the middle of a battlefield. He's not standing tall like a warrior, but rather he's in a wine press, which is like a pit cut into rock. So it's almost like a stone area designed for treading grapes, basically. So, like, you put all the grapes in there, you stand on it, and then it turns into wine. But he's not making wine. He's threshing wheat because they're starving, like they're hungry. So he's doing it in secret. He's threshing wheat in a wine press to try and hide it so the Midianites will not see the dust rising and come and take it. Like a coward, afraid and humiliated. He's doing a job in the wrong place because to do it in the right place would be dangerous for him. And he's wondering, probably quietly, bitterly, whether the God of his fathers has forgotten him. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, if anyone's been there. A couple of nods. We're going through the motions or in places where we never expected to be. We're hiding parts of ourselves because they're too dangerous to bring them to the light. It's too costly, maybe too dangerous. And it's into this pit that the angel of the Lord appears. And he says to Gideon, probably the most ironic greeting in the Bible, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Gideon's hiding. Gideon's, like, scared. He's afraid. And the angel of the Lord shows up and calls him a mighty warrior to a man hiding in a hole. And this might sound like a very Stephen Furtick thing to say, but God doesn't call us what we feel like, but rather he calls us what he's making us into. Okay, so God didn't call him a coward. God didn't call him afraid or a loser for not standing up to the Midianites in that moment, but rather God saw what he was going to use him to do in the future and called him what God sees him to be, rather than what we would see him to be. Gideon's reply is one of the most honest replies in all of Scripture. It's like a great response. So the Lord says, it calls him mighty warrior. He's like, pardon me? Who do you think you're talking to? Look at where I am. If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all his wonderful deeds our Father recounted to us? Bold question, eh? Speaking to the angel of the Lord there. Not one lacking in faith necessarily, but a real, deep, honest question, a reflection on, well, Lord, you've promised us wonderful things, yet here I am hiding in a cave because those people over there, the people that you handed us to, are causing us to starve, are hurting us, we're in pain because of it. It's the type of question that you ask when the gap between what you've been told about God and what you're actually living through feels impossibly wide. But I love that God doesn't rebuke him in this moment, but rather he commissions him. He calls him a warrior, and then he tells him what he's going to do. He sends him. He says, you are going to win this battle. You are going to win this fight. Like, this isn't where you're meant to be. This is the purpose that I've got for you. And it's in that moment that he commissions Gideon. He sends him. And later we've read that when Gideon's like, oh, Lord, I'm not sure, like, who you are. I'm not sure if what you're saying is true, so I'm going to test you. And the Lord's like, right, I'll wait here. You go and get the stuff that you need to test me. I'll just chill out here. And then Gideon comes back with a sacrifice, and he says the fire consumes it. And in that moment, Gideon realizes that he is face to face with God himself. And he's terrified again. He thinks he's going to die because Israel's understanding is you come face to face with God, you cannot live. No one sees God face to face and lives. And it's right there in that terror, in that absolute realization that it is the Lord that he is standing in front of him, that God reveals his nature and his character and speaks words that change it all for Gideon. He says, peace be to you. Do not fear. You shall not die. And then Gideon builds an altar, and he calls it Jehovah Shalom. The Lord is peace. So shalom, what does it mean? What is it? We read that shalom appears over 200 times in the Old Testament, and it almost never means simply the absence of something. It doesn't mean that. Like I've said already, it means wholeness. It means completeness. It means every part of every living thing functioning as it was designed. So when a broken bone heals, that is shalom. When broken relationships are restored, that is shalom. It's what Eden was before Adam and Eve disobeyed. It's what the new creation will be when Christ returns. And this word, the Hebrew root of the word shalom means, it was used in like business life, in commercial life, to mean like full restitution. I remember once when I was a kid and we'd play football, and remember like the old aerials on the car, like the metal ones you'd pull up. I might have broken a few of those in the past, and you knock on the person's door and you say sorry, you didn't mean to do that, and sometimes you go to your parents, can I have some money to help contribute to that? We broke a few windows playing football, but shalom. So to use that as an example, shalom doesn't just mean to go and apologize for the thing that you've broken, or to say, oh, listen, the insurance will sort that out. Let's somebody else will deal with it. Or it doesn't mean, right, I'll get my pocket money out, like Paul last week who broke the car, that they've got to scramble to get the money to partially pay for the repair. But shalom means we pay for the glass, we replace the window, and we make it whole again. Like, we fix it completely. We do all of that stuff. That's what shalom means. It means the whole thing made whole. Hold on to that picture, because that's what God is going to do at the cross. God isn't going to send Jesus to apologize for our sin on our behalf. Or God isn't sending Jesus to come and give us something towards fixing it ourselves, but rather he's going to send Jesus to come and pay the full restitution. He's going to make the whole thing whole. W-H-O-L-E. He's going to fill the whole, H-O-L-E, too many holes here. So when God says to Gideon, peace be to you, he's not saying, right, calm down a second, just chill out for a moment. He's not saying that, but what he's doing is he's declaring over a man who is in absolute pieces, your standing before me is not destroyed by your fear or your failure. I can see where you are. I can see you're in a hole hiding from these people, but that doesn't define you. He's like, you are made whole in me. There's nothing about this context that is externally peaceful. Like, the enemy is dominant. They are lacking in food. They are lacking in purpose and hope. The harvest is gone, yet God speaks shalom into it anyway. Like, no way would he be able to envisage how this whole situation is going to be made whole. But God speaks it anyway, because he doesn't wait for our circumstances to be good to provide that peace or that wholeness. But God speaks shalom into our brokenness. And he promises that he will make broken things whole again. He speaks peace into the winepress. He speaks it into the hiding. He speaks it into the fear. Because let's be honest, like Gideon's hiding from the Midianites is not his biggest problem. And our biggest problem, our deepest problem, is not our circumstances. Despite how painful and despite how real and despite how hard they are, our biggest problem is the brokenness, is the fracture that we experience when we're separated from God. You know the fracture that run through when in Eden, when Adam and Eve chose their own way over God's, the fracture that has run through every human heart since then. That fracture that makes us restless and anxious and diseased with life, with circumstances. Not because of what's happening to us, but because of what has happened in us. St. Augustine said it plainly. He says, our heart is restless until it rests in thee. Our heart is restless until it rests in thee. And this is why, like all our attempts to manufacture peace, whether it's through comfort or control or success or scrolling or a glass of wine or anything really, only ever work partly and only ever work for a short period of time because we're treating the symptom. I remember a few weeks ago when I went to the doctors with that high heart rate, and he said, listen, Dave, I can give you some beta blockers, and they'll reduce your heart rate, but all I'm doing is managing the symptom rather than identifying the root cause of what's wrong. And we try and manage the symptom of our inability to feel or experience peace. Because the root is our separation from the Lord. Our root is the fracture in that relationship. Which is why the New Testament can say something that Gideon could only partly see in Judges. Gideon experienced a God who spoke peace into a moment, yet the New Testament reveals a God who became our peace, permanently, once and for all, at great cost. Ephesians 2 contains like 3 of the most epic words in the Bible. It says, for he himself is our peace. He himself is our peace. Not he gives us peace or he shows us the path to peace, but rather he is our peace. And in Colossians 1:20 says, and making peace by the blood of the cross. He himself is our peace, and he made that peace through the cross. This is where, like, shalom was purchased for us. This is how we can know and we can experience and we can have the peace of God. Like, and for God to give us peace, he had to fix the fracture that existed. He had to fix the brokenness, that relationship, that thing that was separating us, which was sin. So the judgment that sin deserved, our wrongdoing or our going our own way against God, had to fall somewhere. Like someone had to pay that price. Someone had to pay the restitution for it. God, as we've already said multiple times, he can't just ignore it. He can't just wipe it away. Justice isn't waived, yet on the cross, justice is satisfied. At the cross, the full judgment of God, of sin, fell on Jesus. The wrath that stood between us and God was absorbed by him. That barrier was removed. The fracture was healed. It wasn't patched or covered up partially, but it was healed fully. The hole was filled and the hole was made whole. The window wasn't just like temporarily fixed with some gaffer tape or whatever, but it was completely replaced, brand new, made whole. And Romans 5 says, therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. We have peace with God. The relationship fully restored. The brokenness over. Separated. We don't have to hide in the winepress anymore. We don't have to hide anywhere. Because what Gideon glimpsed in the winepress, we have permanently, through the shed blood of Jesus, purchased on the cross. And one of the most quoted, well-known, already read this morning verses in the Bible, in Philippians 4, Paul writes, he calls it the peace of God that surpasses understanding. You know, that's what this peace is for us in practice. It's a peace that we can't, like, it doesn't mean that in that moment, Paul is very, very peaceful. Like Paul is in a nice little lodge overlooking the beach and the sea with the birds. Like, it doesn't mean that's that type of peace. Like, he's not very, very peaceful in that moment, but rather it means that the peace of God operates at a level that we cannot imagine or describe with words. Like, our minds can't comprehend the peace that we receive from God. Because the circumstances of life, they don't explain it. The logic, like, it doesn't make sense. You look at someone's situation from the outside and you think there is no rational reason for them to have peace right now, and yet they do. Why? You know, I've sat with people, and no doubt you've sat with people, or you might have experienced this yourself, where people who have had no earthly reason, or who have had every earthly reason to be full of despair and sadness. That could be like receiving a terminal diagnosis, or it could be people who have lost a child, or people who have experienced tremendous loss and pain. And some of them, not all, but some, carry something that I can only describe as what Paul is talking about here. Like a settled and unshaken quality in their life internally that their external circumstances simply do not account for. Like, how on earth can you be feeling like this, or speaking like this, or living like this, when this is happening to you? That's the fruit. That's the evidence. That's the outpouring of what was settled on the cross. That is the peace that we have from God. Peace with God, producing peace from God, guarding the heart and the mind. It's not personality, or it's not positive thinking, or it's not even like that fake it till you make it attitude. Like, if I keep powering through, I'll be okay. If I keep telling myself it'll be fine, it will be fine eventually. It doesn't work like that. The peace purchased at the cross, given to those who trust in Jesus. And it is available. It is available to all of us today. It's not just for the spiritually advanced or those who've got their lives together, but it was available to a frightened man hiding in a pit in a wine press. Anxiety is one of the defining marks of our time, isn't it? Like, anxiety is everywhere. It's in schools, it's in families, it's in homes. Because the pressure of life is real. And the uncertainty in life is real. And the things that keep people awake at 3 o'clock in the morning aren't small things. They're not things that we just need to sweep under the carpet. There's bills that we need to be paying. There's medical appointments that are landing through our letterbox. There's broken relationships. There's loss of loved ones. There's addiction. There's children who don't talk to you. Like, there's all this stuff that are all real reasons for us to struggle to sleep at night sometimes. I'm not going to stand here and say that trusting in Jehovah Shalom will you'll never feel anxious again. Like, you'll never feel that little heart beat faster, or it will never wake you up in the middle of the night. That would be dishonest, and you would have every right to discard everything else I say, past, present, and future. But knowing all that is real, and knowing all of that happens, I just want to say this: there is a peace available that your circumstances cannot manufacture and cannot take away. But the peace of God is real, and it's not found by solving all our problems. It's not found by sorting our lives out or trying to make sure everything is okay, but rather it is found in the person who has solved our deepest need, our broken relationship with God by his blood. And see, Gideon's story, it doesn't stop at the altar, because after he's commissioned by God, so after he builds the altar and he's commissioned by God to go and defeat the Midianites, you'd almost think that his anxiety or his need to test God is over at that point. He's like, right, I brought the bread and I brought the meat, and God has done something to it, and now I'm full of faith, and I'm going to walk out of here, and I'm never going to doubt God again. That's not the story of Gideon. Like, despite what God has done to Gideon, he's told, right, he's got to go and bring down Baal's altar, and he's got to go and defeat the Midianites, and he's got to win that battle. He's got to face an army with just 300 men. The Lord tests him again, and all the way through his journey, all the way through his life, he's always like, oh, Lord, I'm not sure if this is you. I'm not sure if this is what you are asking me to do, so I'm going to lay a fleece down here. Or I'm going to test you in that again, Lord. You need to confirm to me that it is you again, and over and over and over. We almost see Gideon as yes, he is a mighty warrior, but he is still one with mixed faith. That he still struggles, that he still has those moments where, right, Lord, I need that confirmation from you. The peace didn't lift him out of that battle. The peace didn't solve it all for him in this moment. It didn't iron out every doubt that he had, but rather the peace went with him, and the Lord never left him in the both. It's like a couple of years ago, Esther shared that she started taking medication for anxiety, and for the first couple of months, I'd ask her, how are you feeling? And her response would always be, I feel numb. I feel numb. I don't feel anything. It's like the medication has taken away my ability to yes, I don't feel super sad anymore, but also I don't really get super happy or feel that joy anymore. Numb was almost the feeling. And the peace of God isn't like that. It's not an anesthetic that numbs us or stops us from feeling or causes us not to care, but rather the peace of God is fuel for us, bought at the cross, which means that we can enter those situations, those tough situations, knowing that he is with us, and knowing that the peace that he has given us in the past, he can give it again. It's the gift that God gives Gideon, so this scared, cowardly, trembling man can lead 300 as a mighty warrior into battle and win. He gives it so that we stop hiding and we start living for him. So what does that look like for us? 3 o'clock in the morning when your thoughts start racing, and I don't know what your coping techniques are. You might have mantras that you repeat to yourself, or you might have things that you do. I just want to suggest maybe naming those fears to God openly and honestly. Saying, Lord, I'm scared of this. Lord, I'm worried about this. Lord, I'm really concerned about this. Lord, I don't know what to do in this situation. and then say, but Lord, I know you are my peace. You are my peace in this exact place, and you will bring me through. That's almost what like Gideon did. That's what it means to build an altar sometimes. We're not like physically, getting some stones and building an altar anymore. But we can do that in our lives. We can do that in our spirit. Not because yeah, not because there's magic or anything. Not because there's I don't know. We're not like retraining our brain or anything like that. But when the worry rises throughout the day, whether you're the kitchen sink washing up or you're at your desk or in the car, just say it out loud. Lord, you are my peace. You are my peace, Lord. Lord, you are my peace. Not because it's magic, but because it's true. Because it's truth. It's truth, and we need to speak truth sometimes into ourselves. We need to speak the promises of God into ourselves. We need to build that base. We need to build that altar so that when things do go wrong, that we've got a foundation to fall back to. Gideon tested the Lord, and the Lord responded. And he was like, right, I can do this. Gideon goes to defeat Baal. And he's like, right, Lord, I need this again. Show me again. And in every moment, he's building that altar in him. He's building that faith in him. He's building that trust and knowledge and reliance on God in that moment. It's reminding us who God is and what we have in him. And the act of speaking is the act of declaring whose we are. That we're not going into this situation or this scenario on our own, but we are going with the God of peace, the God of wholeness, the God who wants to restore brokenness in our lives. One other thing I just want to say is that shalom isn't just for us. Okay, shalom overflows. And what do I mean by that? Sometimes like when, if I don't know what example to use. Like if you're in work with a bunch of like randomers, so people you don't work with closely, and you're at one of those like workshops, and they're like, oh, everybody get in a group now, and I'm going to give you a task to do. I'm going to ask you to do something, and everyone hates it, and everyone's panicking, and everyone like nobody wants to take the lead, and you're with somebody who is just calm in that situation. He was somebody who was just, right, we'll get through it, or why don't we do X, and right, Steve, this is your task, and Julie, you do that. Everybody, have you noticed, everybody wants to be on that person's team. Like everybody wants to be with the person who isn't like flapping around in that situation. Why? Because their calmness and their ability you catch it. You almost like, you become calm because of their calmness. Like you receive that from them. And the same thing is true of the peace that we receive from God. So I think if the God who has made peace with us will start making peace through us. Now, what do I mean by that? What does that look like? Well, it might mean that we have to initiate things. It might mean making that phone call or sending that text that we've been putting off for a long time. It might mean that. It might mean laying aside the bitterness that we've been carrying, because building the altar means walking out of here and beginning to make peace with others where God has made peace with you. This is what people who carry shalom do. Isaiah 9 verse 6, a very, very familiar passage, probably not on the 10th of May. We don't read this in the 10th of May, but it says, his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. He's not an ambassador of peace, he's not a spokesman of peace, but rather he is the Prince of Peace. He is the sovereign ruler of shalom. He is the one in whom peace originates and the one from whom it flows. And notice where this verse, where it says the government is, which is very interesting to read this verse after this week of elections. It says the government is upon his shoulders. Like think back to that picture that Emily showed, with the Lord holding those stones above us. Well, you can even take that a step further, and those stones are on his shoulders. Like he's carrying it all. He's carrying the government on his shoulders. The weight of the world is on him, which means that it doesn't have to be on you. You don't have to carry it because he is carrying it. He carried the weight so we can carry the peace. And see, the prince didn't stay, on a throne. The prince didn't stay in his palace, but the prince came down into earth. The world that he created, he comes down into it, and he's experienced everything that we did. The hunger, the pain, the tiredness, the betrayal. He was abandoned. It says that he sweated blood in the garden, in the dark. He hid nothing, yet he bore everything. And on the cross outside Jerusalem, the Prince of Peace faced the ultimate fear. He said, my God, why have you forsaken me? So that we would never have to experience that. And on the night he was arrested, Jesus said to his disciples, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you, not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. My peace, he called it, the perfect, unbroken shalom between Son and Father, given as a gift to us. You know, the world's peace is conditional and is temporary, but his peace goes to the root. Wholeness, completeness, everything fixed. And then he's resurrected. And with his wounds still visible, he stands amongst his disciples, and the first word out of his mouth is a single Hebrew word, shalom. Peace be with you. In John 20, verse 19. The risen Christ is the final, complete fulfillment of Jehovah Shalom. When Gideon received, what Gideon received as a word of assurance in a single moment, we receive as a permanent, unbreakable status in Christ. He himself is our peace. He himself, and we can all know that this morning. We don't have to be hiding in a wine press. We don't have to be running. We don't have to be scared that somebody's going to take all the harvest. We don't have to live a life on our own without any purpose or any hope or any safety or any assurance of a relationship with the God who created you. You can know peace and you can know Jesus today. The Prince of Peace has come. His name is Jesus. And if you've never trusted Christ for yourself, today I urge you to do so. Jesus is offering peace with God, not because of anything you have done, but because of what he has already done on the cross. We know he bore your sin. He absorbed the wrath. He filled the hole that we couldn't fill ourselves. And he calls us now to stop running from our own way, our own life, and to trust in him as your peace, as your Lord, and as your home. You know, the prayer is simple. You just say, Lord, I've been running my own life forever, and now I turn from it. I turn to you and trust what you did on the cross. Lord, be my peace. And if that's the cry of your heart, the Lord has already heard it. The moment you turn, you know, we're going to be looking at parables in a couple of weeks, the prodigal son, the moment you turn, the Father comes running out to meet you. And to the rest of us, those who've already given our lives to the Lord, the one who knows Jesus, who came here this morning carrying something, carrying a weight or trying to carry the stones, you know, represented in that picture, the things that we were never meant to carry. I just want to encourage you today to lay them down, just to let go of them, to lay them at the foot of the cross, not tomorrow or in the week, or say, oh, actually, I'll take them till Thursday and then I'll deal with God. Like, we don't have to wait till then. We can do it now. We can build the altar, start building that altar of faith and peace in our lives. We can stop threshing wheat in a wine press, like hiding for fear that somebody's going to take something from us. Let's just for a moment, just wherever we're sitting, let's just be still and let's just think of those things that we are carrying ourselves, the things that are weighing us down, or the things that are waking us up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And bring that thing, whatever it is, speak it in your heart to the Lord. Name it, and then give it to the Lord. Hear him say, peace be to you. Do not fear. Judges 6:24. Then Gideon built an altar there to the Lord and called it, "The Lord is Peace."